Well, and they were actually saying last week, at the end of the week, I was reading an article saying that there were certain members of the Fed who were suggesting, I don't know if they were doing this, they're doing some type of like reach out to the community tour where they're going to cities and they're asking people, and of course everybody's saying the same thing, right? Which is we can't fucking stomach higher prices, right? So they're going out there, the Fed is having this outreach tour, which in and of itself, if you're going to be an objective body, is a ridiculous thing to do, in my opinion. But they're going out and holding, I guess, town hall style meetings about jobs with some of the Fed governors. And what's everybody saying, Bill? Everybody's saying the same thing, which is, business owners are coming out to these things and saying, as soon as prices rise, I get complaints from my customer. They notice it immediately.
Well, what's liable to happen, although it's hard to make firm predictions given the fact that this QE, NERP, and ZERP business has never been tried before, and thus we're all guessing at how the outcomes are going to look and what the timeline is. But they run the real risk of at some point finally igniting inflation psychology. In other words, they're hell-bent on higher prices. They think that higher prices are a good thing. I'm talking about inflationary. I'm talking about just price hikes. And at some point, people may start to believe that. And if you're a business guy and you're forced, and somebody else in your same industry is forced, and all of a sudden they start passing along price hikes and nothing happens. After all, we've had plenty of inflation in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It doesn't show up in the CPI because of how it's calculated, right? There's substitution, there's hedonics, which are quality improvements. It's a ridiculous concept, but so if you use the CPI as a guide, it's not likely to ever show any inflation. But at some point, psychology will change about the outcome of these policies. I cannot tell you when or what the catalyst will be, but it'll happen, and they'll be stopped. The bond market, the currency market will stop these guys. It's hard to see the FX market doing it because the other central bankers are worse, which is hard to believe. But at some point, the bond markets will crack up. At some point, European bond markets may crack up, or Japan. I don't know where it's going to come from. But what you cannot do is you cannot allow yourself to think that the Fed is going to do the responsible thing. I got fooled by that in the late '90s. I thought that the Fed would lean against an obvious bubble. They did not. And of course, when it burst, they didn't think they'd done anything wrong, so they doubled down on the same bad policies. We had the real estate bubble. And of course, when they came with QE, I didn't get fooled that time. I realized, okay, these guys mean business, and I shut down my short fund because I knew they were going to, promote and take ownership of. I didn't know it was going to turn into a bubble. I didn't know they'd get along with it, get away with it this long. But again, I knew it was a new policy no one had ever seen, so you can't have a big opinion about what how long it can last and what'll end it. So, all I can stress is these people are out of control. They have no idea what they're doing, and they're going to keep doing the same radical things because they don't know, they don't have any common sense, and they don't know what a rational policy would look like, and they don't know how warped theirs are.